Greetings, and welcome to a Word podcast presented by Rooted Blossoms. This podcast is about encouraging souls through spoken word, guided meditations, prayers, and enriching conversations. I am Danielle Patrice, your host, who is most passionate about sharing practices for living life with authentic connections, richer meaning, deeper awareness, joy, and humanity. Simply put, soulful communion and healing connection of breath, body, and spirit. Greetings, Kindred. This is episode 1, the very first episode of a Word podcast presented by Rooted Blossoms. I am Danielle Patrice, your host, and I thank you so very much for taking the time to support and listen in on today. Consider leaving a rating or review on iTunes. Also, please consider sharing this podcast with others that may like or benefit from the content being shared. Both would be greatly appreciated and help in growing the podcast. Should you want to connect, email me at rootedblossoms@gmail.com or visit me on my website at www.rootedblossoms.com. This and more information about today's episode and Rooted Blossoms can be found in the show notes. Today's episode is a reading of an original work by me entitled Kindred Song. This work was originally inspired by Dr. Chelsea Jackson Roberts' inclusivity training for yoga. It was during this training that Teo Drake spoke on how we use language and its impact on how we see each other. And in taking this training, I was challenged to ask myself on how do I really see people? And after mulling it over, I came away with some things. First, it's about fully acknowledging and welcoming all. Within this particular context, like I said before, it was the training, and it would be specific to spaces of yoga practice. But I do believe that this concept of seeing people and truly seeing people could be applied to any space, whether it be at home, whether it be at work or school or assemblies of worship. Secondly, it is about observing and listening and being open. But the important thing is, it's all of that, but it's with no expectation, no judgment, no censoring, no explanation, no analysis, no projection, no assumption, and no comparison. And I think this is what acceptance may look and feel like. And we all want to be accepted. Thirdly, it starts with being able to see yourself, which in turn allows you to see others. I think this begins an authentic process of beginning to deal with the inner critic, but not only the inner critic, internal biases. And then finally, understanding all of this, it's more than just a cliche or a buzzword. So, in acknowledging all of this, I respect the fact that there's more to this conversation of seeing people, particularly in today's world. And I'm still working through this, trying to embody this in my own life. I've had moments where I've missed it altogether, and I've had moments where I really understood what it is to see, and furthermore, what it is to be seen, whether it be at a meet and greet in Toronto, Ontario, or the Women of Color Yoga Retreat in Northeast Ohio. So as I read this work, I invite you, I encourage you to explore and give thought to how you see yourself. And in seeing yourself, how do you see others? How could you better observe, listen, and be open without any conditions or stipulations? And what does that look like in terms of actual steps, in terms of living it out? Finally, as you do kind of like this self-internal inventory, this self-internal type of introspective exercise, how much more awareness and humanity could be gained or could be manifested in your relationships, in your own life? So again, as I read this work, I encourage you to think this through. Kindred Song. I see you, kindred, among the masses, the sea of others. I see you, kindred, excited of it being the first or maybe the third or fifth time. I see you, kindred, thrilled but yearning, free but constrained, open but guarded. I see you, kindred, reflective tapestry of me, skin, hair, eyes, lips, body, shape, sound, smell, style, and yes, that walk, and yes, that swag. I see you, kindred. Even though I may not know your name, you are a glimpse of home. I see you, kindred, smiling, twinkling eye, waving hand to a beautiful, familial soul. I see you, kindred, seeking, learning, evolving a practice for self and others. I see you, kindred, connected gaze across the room. I see you, kindred, love for the practice that unfolds, reveals, heals, and transforms. I see you, kindred, love for the practice that is imprinted in our ancestral lineage. I see you, kindred, each a unique journey with shared landmarks and landmines. I see you, kindred, unrecognized, invisible, and dismissed by a practice establishment. I see you, kindred, narratives of pain and joy, tears and triumph, confidence and doubt, wounds and healing, loss and victory, and all in between. I see you, kindred, shrieking at the invitation and being on the list. Yes, I see you, kindred, awaiting 7:30 p.m. on Saturday. I see you, kindred, making way through the snow, cold, and ice of April 14th, no matter what. I see you, kindred, arriving, giving thanks. Pause with a sigh of relief of having made it. I see you, kindred, taking in the beautiful upper room filled with beautiful expressions of each other. I see you, kindred, speaking your name, giving sound to your narrative. I see you, kindred, no longer yearning, no longer constrained, no longer guarded. I see you, kindred, embodied heart, soul, courage, intellect, beauty, and yes, strength. I see you, kindred, a beautiful, radiant expression of divine life and purpose. I see you, kindred, a soulful melody ever so sweet and so needed for self, others, and this world. I see you, kindred, a communal presence that brings life and inspiration to staying the course. I see you, kindred, knowing that you are with me always, never to be forgotten. I see you, kindred, knowing that there is so much more to come. I see you because I see me. I see you because I see me. I see you because I see me. Thank you again for supporting and listening to the podcast. Again, reviews, comments, and sharing are appreciated. This podcast could not happen without you, the listeners, as well as the work and support of Gwendolyn Wren, cover design, James Derrick, audio content editing. Until we meet again, until we connect again, remember to make time for soulful communion and healing connection of breath, body, and spirit.